They had made eye contact. Well, Crowley had made eye contact with a random pair of eyes on one of Aziraphale's many wings, but the result was just as awkward. And then, more out of instinct than anything else, Crowley had waved his hand in a kind of uncertain half-greeting. Aziraphale, just as surprised to see him, and caught off guard, did his own little wave. At the time it was such an unusual interaction for an angel and a demon to have that neither of them wanted to really think about it too thoroughly. Crowley wasn't in the city to thwart any miracles of Aziraphale's, so he didn't feel the need to interrupt, and went on his way, thinking of large hazel eyes. "I was not showing off," Aziraphale said, wings fluttering defensively. Across the world and the Mongolian forest there was a particularly strong gust of wind. No one was around to hear it, but it definitely made a sound. "I was educating him. He was a bit of a scoundrel, some sort of dealer, I believe. I was supposed to stop him taking money from innocents, or some such. At the time, you know, I was actually keen on doing my job, Crowley." Crowley pointed a dark painted nail at him. "I know you, Angel. Don't pretend you didn't get a little thrill out of scaring the daylights out of a little weasel like that." Aziraphale's eyes all lowered sheepishly. "Well, perhaps a bit. I never would have admitted to it at the time, though." "Regardless," Crowley said, "you look just the same then as you do now. I literally can't forget the sight. So you really ought to trust me on this one." Aziraphale's entire being hummed for a moment as he considered this. "That's very kind of you to say, Crowley," he said slowly. "But I feel how I feel, I'm afraid." He could see that Crowley was frowning, and quickly went on. "Don't worry yourself over it, my dear. As I said, I'm quite all right. I just wanted to try to sort myself out before we went to dinner. It doesn't bode well to dress up for a nice meal with your best friend and feel out of sorts on several other dimensions." Aziraphale tried to survey himself with his own eyes, without much success. There are some things you really can only do with a working mirror handy. In that moment, there were several things Crowley wanted to say to Aziraphale. He wanted to say, "You look wonderful," and "I do remember what it's like having an angelic form, you know. It's not the sort of thing you can easily forget. So believe it or not, I do have some idea of what you're going through. And "I could help with it if you let me, Angel." And "You're built like the rest of them, but you aren't the rest of them. Can't you see that? Even if you're not falling, you don't have to be like them anymore. You can be as scattered as you like. You can take up the whole universe if you felt like it, because if you really wanted to, none of them could stop you. Not the armies of heaven or hell or anywhere in between. And I love you. And you're terrifying. And you're being ridiculous. And you absolutely were showing off in Bethlehem, but you earned it. And you should show off more often because they all deserve to see you like this, the way I get to see you." Instead, what Crowley said was, "By the way, what's the bread?" "What?" said Aziraphale, wings twitching in confusion. "The toast thing you were going on about earlier, with the butter and all. If you're the butter, what's the bread?" Aziraphale had to think for a moment. "The universe, I suppose." "Bloody big piece of bread, Angel." "Well, that's just the point, isn't it?" Now Crowley was confused. "What is the point?" "The point is, all this talk of bread has made me hungry. We best head off before they give away our reservation." Crowley scoffed. "They wouldn't dare." "Nevertheless, mind your eyes, my dear." As Crowley shielded his eyes, the light around Aziraphale grew brighter and brighter, until there was a strange kind of crackling sound of the universe rearranging itself. The process of a massive, multi-dimensional celestial being stuffing itself back into a relatively tiny, three-dimensional space was not an easy task for reality to handle, but it managed it eventually, not without some otherworldly groaning. When Crowley moved his hand away, Aziraphale was back in human form, genteel as you please, straightening his waistcoat in the mirror, which had reluctantly decided to reflect its surroundings again. Crowley noticed a flash of bright silver and gold at Aziraphale's neck. "That a new bow tie?" Crowley said, retrieving the champagne bottle, now sweaty with condensation. Aziraphale turned to smile at him. "It is, dear boy. Thank you for noticing." "You look very nice," Crowley said sincerely. "Oh, I'm well aware, but thank you for saying so. I mean, in every dimension, Angel." Aziraphale looked at him, this time with only two eyes, but they were still hazel, and they were still his. He smiled with only one mouth, small and hopeful. "Crowley, Aziraphale." With the smallest of sighs, Aziraphale stepped forward and placed a single, prim kiss on Crowley's mouth, He tasted of ozone. It was divine, Crowley thought, in the most human sense of the word. "You're a dear. Have I ever told you that?" Aziraphale said, and kissed him again, for much longer this time. When they separated, Crowley said, "You tell me that all the time. It's annoying, really." Aziraphale laughed, very loud and very long. Crowley almost dropped the champagne. "Oh, dearest," Aziraphale said when he was done, eyes shining with mirth. "Now I'm never going to stop." As they descended the front steps of the bookshop, where the Bentley was parked illegally on the curb, waiting for them, Crowley said, "You know, Angel, I rather like my butter spread thin." "Do you now?" said Aziraphale, as Crowley opened the passenger door for him. "Oh, yes. Best to cover most of the bread, isn't it?" "Ah, well," Aziraphale said as he climbed in, with a tight-lipped smile that meant he was really pleased. "I suppose it is." "And," Crowley said, once he come around the car and climbed into the driver's seat, "I like plenty of butter." Crowley did not brandish any kind of key, but the Bentley's engine roared to life anyway, and began ferrying them towards central London. "My dear, I do believe this metaphor has gotten away from you." "Oh, you know what I mean," Crowley said. He paused for only a moment, then went on. "I like you, Angel. Plenty. In any form." "I know, Crowley," Aziraphale said kindly. "I didn't know how else to say it." Aziraphale stretched across the dashboard to take Crowley's hand in his. "You said it wonderfully, my dear," he said, and as he stretched his wings to their limit in 10 other dimensions at once, Aziraphale settled in for the ride.